I'm Jay Slade-Cobb, and you're listening to Masterpiece Studio. If you've watched Grantchester from the very start, it's impossible to forget that scene back in Season 1, Episode 2, when we first meet mainstay Leonard Finch. Timid, with a quavering voice that belied his strong belief in loving all people, he arrived at the vicarage as a mustachioed curate in search of shortbread. While Leonard's piety has never been in question, his personal life and relationship with Daniel Marlowe has. Although Leonard was defrocked many years ago, by season 11 he feels called back to the very institution that rejected him, as his faith in God runs deeper than church politics. Leonard knows that his chances of returning to the clergy are slim. No amount of fixation on trivial matters can distract him from his soul's desire, but that doesn't stop him from trying.
How bad do you think it is?
The worst I've ever seen.
The worst?
Frankly, I'm doubtful there's a way back from this.
We're past the point of no return.
At best, we're on the cusp.
The cusp of the point of no return.
This could mark the end of us here.
Because there's mold in the spare room. What's really up?
When a crime wave turns this sleepy village on its head, Leonard and Mrs. C take it upon themselves to apprehend the criminal responsible for the recent thefts and vandalism. They catch local boy Raymond stealing biscuits and interrogate him. Despite the fact that Raymond has a knack for kicking Leonard's shins, Leonard can sense a troubled soul in need of support. Could this provide an answer to Leonard's recent loss of purpose?
Exhibit A, an empty plate.
Once filled with some very good, if rather crumbly biscuits.
They were meant to be crumbly.
That wasn't a criticism, Mrs. C, just an observation.
What do you have to say for yourself, young man?
As Leonard and Daniel get to know Raymond, they learn that his father is terminally ill. With no other legal guardian in the picture, Leonard is determined to help secure a stable home environment for Raymond. He turns to Alfie for support, but Alfie is currently navigating a crisis of faith and does not have the capacity to help Leonard.
Raymond's going to need full-time care, and very possibly sooner than we think. We need to know where he's going to end up.
Have you informed Children's Services? He might need to be in the care of a boys' home.
Those places are awful.
Well, they were good enough for me.
The church should be helping him.
Leonard, I'm a vicar, not a social worker. By all means, make him yours, but that child is not my problem.
By episode 7, Leonard has all but given up on Alfie, the man who has the job Leonard wants but isn't performing in the way Leonard thinks he should. How long can this rift last? And what does this mean for Raymond's future? Today we're joined by actor Al Weaver to reflect on Leonard Finch's transformation over 11 seasons of Grantchester, and to discuss how Leonard might find a way to do God's work beyond the walls of the church. This week we are joined by Grantchester star Al Weaver. Welcome.
Hi, it's good to be here.
Thanks for coming back.
Thanks for having me back.
I want to go way back now, all the way to your very first appearance on Grantchester, which wasn't the first episode, but was episode 2, where you turn up at the vicarage as curate Leonard Finch, complete with pencil mustache. What did you make of Leonard as a character at that time?
Oof. Well, I guess there were like a lot of unknowns because I didn't have all the scripts, but the producers had told me what was going to happen. Yeah, I just kind of knew what was alluded to. I think it was Pippa Nixon's character was kind of said, this is my roommate and he teaches at an all-girls school and he's just passed his... I'm gonna bugger this up. But his curate exam. He's just, there's something. He wants to be a curate. He wants to get into the priesthood. And there was a space with Sydney, and he's very effeminate. And I think he likes men. I guess there was a mini conversation, with the producers that he wasn't really sure, and that was kind of the journey that he was going to go on. That obviously he would discover all of that as the show kind of went on. But yeah, I just need, because most of the stuff was really funny. You know, it was always just kind of comic relief. And then he got roped into the case straight away. And that first day on set, I'm sure I've told this before, but the first day on set, they did my hair and kept the mustache. And honestly, I was in the makeup chair and I thought I was going to get fired. I was like, oh my God, I look ridiculous. Oh my God. And they put me in a car, and when everyone's on set, Harry Bradbeer, who did Fleabag and he's just done Spider Noir, wheeled me down to set. I came out and walked on in Emerald Days, and everybody was there. And I was just like, God, this is it. I'm going to get sent home. And they all just laughed and was just like, oh my God, it's Leonard. It's Leonard. And that was my memories of that, I think. It was a pretty good memory, actually.
His first line of dialogue in Grantchester, I think, is entirely fitting. It's, I've been in search of shortbread.
Yes.
Which I think is so Leonard to a T.
Leonard, this is Sydney Chambers.
I have been in search of shortbread. I have recently completed my theological training and consider myself ready for a proper parochial position. You involve yourself in all areas of the community, I imagine. Bible study, fundraising for the missionaries, and whatnot.
How well do you know Miss Young?
As well as opportunity allows. She's out most of the time with men. One of them sends her poems.
Really? Are they any good?
Dreadful. Although I suppose the name Daphne is difficult to rhyme.
How was she when she came home last night?
In truth, a little tipsy. If you don't mind me saying, I have never seen a priest make murder his business.
Well, as a priest, isn't everything our business? There's no part of the human heart which is not our responsibility.
Of all the characters in Grantchester, Leonard, whether as curate or just as a person, he does seem to be the most focused on the human heart. And I think we see that with Raymond, whom we'll get to in a little bit, but also with Jennifer Scott, with everyone really in the village. Do you see Leonard as functioning ultimately as the emotional heartbeat of the show?
I think maybe earlier on he was, yeah. He was definitely the nicest, I think, of the characters. And he always had good intentions. But yeah, I think me and Tessa always felt that we were both that kind of heart of the show. I think because we do all the home life stuff, all the domestic stuff, they sort of do the crime, and then all our stuff is kind of back at the vicarage or in Grantchester or whatever. And, we never met the other casts, like the guest cast and things like that. We, like Ships in the Night, we just never saw them. And I know Daisy loved writing those scenes. I know she likes writing the crime as well, but I know she really loved writing those sort of domestic family scenes, I think. And she always wrote them so well. So yeah, because I think also because like Sydney always came back, or Alfie, and they all came back to the vicarage, and there was always a message to be learnt there, I think. So yeah, I think I think him and Mrs. C, I think, sort of both together.
You mentioned Daisy. I think it's clear that both Daisy Coulomb and the audience have a real love for Leonard. And he is the character who undergoes perhaps the biggest transformation and experiences some of the most dramatic highs and lows across 11 series. Meeting Daniel, but going to prison, losing his curacy, but finding a mother's love in Sylvia Chapman. Is it ultimately swings and roundabouts for Leonard at the end of the day?
Well, I mean, I hope not. I hope by the end of this season, it's not. Just it's always difficult, and the times are changing, but they're not changing fast enough for him. So he's always trying to strive for a bit more happiness. And I think he's a restless soul. He really wants to do good things and change people's lives for the better. And he's constantly when he went to prison and he had his collar taken away from him. I think that was a big turning point, because he really didn't have a purpose. And I think he finds that again by the end, which is gorgeous. It's such a beautiful end.
You mentioned turning points, and I want to talk about turning points. Way back when, in one of our interviews, you described Leonard in those early episodes as almost Basil Fawlty level in terms of his clumsiness. Was there a particular turning point for Leonard, whether it is, as you say, having to give up his collar, his suicide attempt, breaking off his engagement to Hillary, or his love and care for Sylvia during her cancer treatment? Was there a particular turning point that ultimately changed your perspective as an actor on the character you're playing?
when Mrs. C, like, when she became aware of Daniel and kind of allowed him in, and him and Daniel solidified that relationship when he accepted and didn't care and was like, this is what I'm doing. And I think when he admitted to the police that he was guilty, then I think, those sorts of things about his courage and his moving forward are big things. I loved all that stuff. When a character, or you or me or anyone takes ownership of one of their mistakes to their ambitions, the things, or true purpose, or sexual feelings, whatever it is, like, it takes courage to be yourself. And I think when he started doing that, and that became really interesting, and it kind of became a lot more. It was less comedic, all the stuff. Each scene kind of became a bit more meaningful, because he'd made these choices and he was on this journey and he was being his true self. So that was a turn in the character, not just being a comedy foil, and hiding something all the time, but actually being someone who speaks his mind, who lives his truth, who does all these things. So that was a different kind of challenge and, I guess, journey for me to go on. And then Daniel was there all the time as well, Ollie was there the entire time, which was great. And their stuff is just lovely,
Pre-pandemic, you and Tessa Peake-Jones, who'd been your mentor at drama school, would share a car to the set every day, and you'd want to ride in quiet, and she would talk your ear off. What did those car rides mean to you?
I mean, just stress. It's just stress. It's noise, stress. No, it's because I get car sick, which I don't know if I'm sure I've told her this. And I love Tessa, literally like my own family. She's one of the best in the world. I love those little car trips, but I generally was exhausted by the time we got to set. I didn't like the coming home bit was fine. It was just in the mornings. I like to close my eyes and meditate and get ready for the day, where Tess is she just talks and talks, and I love that. I wish I could do that, but it's not how I am. But I do miss our journeys home, and I miss her. It's weird. And I'll tell you what the nicest one was. The nicest was when we would come back from Grantchester, because we would always share a car. And I would ask to share a car, actually. I'm like, make sure I'm in a car with Tess on the way back, because we'd have like an hour and a half back to London, and we'd stop at a Waitrose. We'd get a bottle of wine, and we'd have wine in the back of the car, and we'd chat. And it was great, and it was gorgeous. And, we'd catch up on each other's lives a little bit more and just have a laugh. And I texted her the other day, because she offered me some tickets for a play. She always does that. This is what she does. She texts me and says, I can't do this play because I've got this job. Do you want the tickets? So I'll go, yeah. But anyway, I couldn't. But I said, it's so weird. I said, this is the first time in 11, 12 years that we're not going to work together this year. So weird. You come to expect that, and it just doesn't happen anymore. It's strange. But yeah, I am, you look back and you laugh at these things, don't you think? Oh, well, yeah, I wish I could share a car with Tessa again.
We're going to take a short break to hear a word from our sponsors, and when we return, more from Grantchester star Al Weaver. Ocean voyages, expeditions, river journeys. Viking is dedicated to bringing travelers closer to the destination, offering a small ship experience and a shore excursion in every port. Learn more at Viking.com. And we're back with actor Al Weaver. So Series 11, Leonard has fallen into a bit of a routine with Daniel. He misses the church and the sense of purpose that his vocation gave him.
I wish I could come back.
But you're doing so well. You're helping men of sin.
That's not what we call them.
You're helping men who've made bad decisions make good ones.
It doesn't feel like God's work.
He would approve, I'm sure.
I like doing things for God. I'm drifting without the church. Like, I don't have worth.
You have worth, Leonard. Silly boy.
And he begins a doomed campaign to return to the church, asking Alfie to talk to the bishop on his behalf, Why does Leonard want to return to a church that cast him out, that made him feel inhuman? And how does he see his self-worth in relation to the church or God's work?
I think in a weird way, he probably thinks he can change it from the inside, but I think he still goes to church. He still holds those beliefs that actually religion at its best, like humans at their best, they're incredible and they change people's lives and they're there to help. And at worst, they are the worst things in the world and they're not helpful and they punish. And even though he was a victim of that, I think one, he could maybe put aside and blame the bishop and say, actually, he could have fought more. Two, it was of a time. And I think he understands that the climate of the UK and the climate of the world is of a time. And I think he's optimistic that that will change. I think he does think things will change. But I think that his belief in God has not wavered, ever.
His attempts to reclaim his identity, even in his make-believe of answering the phone and saying Reverend Finch, lead him, with the help of Mrs. C, to try and catch a village thief. And that thief ends up being unmasked as troubled local boy Raymond, who kicks Leonard in the shin. What does Leonard make of Raymond initially?
Initially, he thinks he's trouble. And I love this. I love that they, we said, oh, can me and Mrs. C do a crime? And this is what they gave us. I was like, well, it's not exactly what I had in mind. But then it's absolutely brilliant because the interrogation scene is just fantastic. And like he kicks me in the thingy and I'm like, no, I bruise like a peach. And it's so weird because I actually do bruise like a peach. And my dad is called Raymond in real life. It's bizarre. I think he's got a lot more patience than Mrs. C. She's straight away just like, bringing the hammer down on him. And he's, Leonard as always has a bit more patience. But, little Jax James, he's a movie star in that kid. He is so good. Like, you work with children and you're just like, how are you doing that? He's so good. And a joy. Yeah, I don't think Leonard's thinking anything in terms of the path that we go down. I think he kind of sees it and takes him in and then sees the state of affairs when he goes back to his house. And then that's when it kind of all changes and his inner need to help and look after people kind of comes to the fore because then he can't help but get involved.
That scene in particular, he discovers Raymond's father, Marcus, is terminally ill. And I love that scene, particularly because Raymond takes Leonard's hand and he says, "Thank you, Vicar." And Leonard just beams. How does that slip being called Vicar feel to Leonard, even if it is make-believe?
I think he feels good about it because I think in his heart of hearts, he is a vicar. And I think that's, back to the question you were talking before, like what an establishment says in his heart of hearts, he is a vicar by all, means. He does the things that a vicar does better than most vicars. He's always there for anyone that helps. So I don't think it's definitely a throwback to the past and it makes him go on this path of sort of talking to Alfie and asking him whether he's like, can you, put a word in with the bishop? And is there any way that I could be involved with the church again? Because that's where my heart is. That's where I feel I can make the most difference for the good. He's tried all these other things but I think being part of that establishment, and the truth is, I don't know why he feels that from such a young age. Or I just feel like he probably found comfort when his mum died and his dad was a bit of a bastard, pardon my French. I think he probably found comfort in God and in the scripture and the sort of community aspect of what the church at its best can be. And he probably still sees that. And he never got to be a vicar properly. He always wanted to be. But so I think if the world's changing, then maybe he has a chance of having his own parish one day.
I mean, as you say, he sort of embraces that notion of being a shepherd, even if he doesn't have his dog collar anymore. And he does shepherd Marcus in episode 5.
I've done terrible things. Broke commandments left and right.
We're all sinners, Marcus. But God loves us anyway. I promise you, he forgives. He does. You mustn't fear death, because you're going home to the Lord.
It's not death that scares me. Who's gonna love my son? There's no one to watch out for him. To see him safe, to see him happy, makes me so damn angry.
Raymond will be taken care of.
You can't promise that.
I bloody well can. And I will. I'll see he's safe. I'll see he's happy.
How?
I don't know. I'll find a way.
And to me, this is Leonard at his best. He is a true man of God, preaching even if he's no longer a preacher. What did you make of that moment and how far this character has come in that journey?
It's so well written, I think. I love those scenes, and they're just beautifully written. And you can just really say them with like complete sincerity. And, acting at its simplest is trying to change something, or, what am I trying to get? That's, action or whatever what am I trying to get? How do I get it? And Leonard at his best is really just straightforward. Like, how can I make someone feel safe? How can I make them feel better? What can I do to help this person feel okay? And it's kind of a beautiful thing because he's so honest with it and he means it. He really means it. And he hasn't thought about how he's going to do this, but he will find a way because he can't bear to see people in pain. And he kind of think, it's interesting. I think maybe he sees Raymond as a reflection of himself, not born into a wealthy family, sort of a working class dad, in and out of families, been in and out of, I think there's a line that says they've been in and out of the cop shop many times. I never really thought about it like that until now, but yeah, I'm sure there definitely is some sort of, I can't let this kid go down a road when I can help and I know I can make his life better. And I don't know how to do that yet, but I know I can do that. So they're gorgeous scenes. They're gorgeous scenes to act.
I mean, I love the fact that we have this scene and then we get a scene between Leonard and Jennifer in the church where she confesses that she's pregnant. And Leonard's advice is,
I can't pretend to know the first thing about being a parent. I do know a little about losing a career. Perhaps try and think of it not as what you'll lose, but what you'll gain. It's a gift, Jen. Enjoy it. And perhaps let Larry enjoy it too.
Do these two scenes, particularly in juxtaposition, reveal the true faith, the boundless heart and love of Leonard Finch? I feel like there's a reason these are both together.
Yeah, I think you're right. As well as being that, I think it also opens something in him that he has not even dared to think. He sees Jen pregnant and scared, and whether she tells Larry or not, and it's just something that he never would have thought he could have, like love. He never thought he could find love. He never thought he'd have a family that would accept him the way he is. And I think that's another reason he would fight to be part of the priesthood again, is so that he can be part of this community church, which is, his home. I mean, that was just such a gorgeous, I love Melissa. I think she's such a great actress. She's just brilliant. And we get on like a house on fire. And she was pregnant while we were filming this. And she's had a baby now. And so it was very, very personal to her. And when you're doing that and someone is pregnant and playing pregnant, and then you say a line like that, you can make it really personal, like you're just telling a friend, giving a friend advice, which is quite nice,
Marcus surprises Leonard and Daniel by saying he's changing his will and will make Raymond Daniel's ward. What does this decision mean to Leonard to have a child to care for and to raise?
I think, we talked about, it's just something that he never thought he'd have. I think he just wouldn't even dare to dream that he would have a kid. It's just, it's like getting to the moon or whatever. It's just not even in his orbit. I'm not sure how many rules we're bending in the show by allowing this to happen. I'm not sure whether this would actually happen. Is kind of, I've got a criminal record for, being in prison for being a homosexual. I'm not sure this could happen in real life. I don't know, in 1963. But that's the beauty of this show, is that actually we can take something that is much more beneficial for the characters and much more beneficial for the story, and actually kind of play with that to give the audience a good journey and a really fulfilling. And when I read that, I texted Ollie straight away and just said, "Have you read this script? This is so brilliant." Because he's like, "I'll do it," and you're like, "Oh, fantastic!" I said, "You get you get your hero moment," and I loved it. And it just speaks volumes about their relationship, but I think it just means everything. But absolutely everything, it's like you get something that you never thought you'd have. And all of a sudden you're like, I would do anything not to mess this up or keep this. And like, they're a proper family. It's incredible. I think it was the perfect ending.
You mentioned the notion of the criminal record. Leonard sacrificed everything for Daniel, his freedom, his vocation, his safety, his reputation, to keep him safe. And all these years later, it's that decision that ultimately saves Raymond, as Daniel doesn't have a criminal record, allowing Marcus to make him Raymond's guardian. What would Leonard make of the hand of Providence at play here? Would he see this as God's true intent?
Yeah, I think he might, I think he might. I think fate has a weird way of playing a part in our lives when that you don't expect it. I've had it recently in my own life, and in like a really beautiful way. You have to follow this path. But yeah, I don't think it goes, I don't think it changes. At the time, he was furious with Daniel. It's like, you're lying, tell the truth. But what does it matter? In the great scheme of things, what does it matter? Because it's played an ace right now. So I think that's all that matters. Sometimes you just let things go and go, here we are, and we've got this. I think it's just kind of gorgeous, really, isn't it?
It is. Al Weaver, thank you so very much.
Thank you very much.
Next time, with Geordie's shooter Dexter still at large, Larry and Alfie pay his uncle a visit to get more information, but time is running out.
We told him not to be stupid. I told him to calm down. But he won't listen. He never listened. He's going to keep hurting people. He's not going to stop. You have to stop him.
Join us next week as we talk with the cast and head writer to discuss the final episode of the final season of Grantchester. Masterpiece Studio is hosted by me, Jay Slay-Cobb, produced by Jack Pombriant, and edited by Robin Bissett. Elishaba Etup is our sound designer. The executive producer for Masterpiece is Suzanne Simpson.